I started off this spring cleanup by looking for the cuts that I had made in the middle of a snowstorm just a few days earlier on my Limelight hydrangeas. I headed out to try to shovel my driveway and noticed that my hydrangeas needed some serious help. The snow had piled up on the blooms that I had left for winter interest and looked like they were about to snap off several branches. Believe me, lesson learned. I was moving so quickly because of the cold and trying to save the branches that I wasn't really paying attention to how close I was or was not to a set of buds where I was making my cuts. A week before the snowstorm, I had started to see little buds started to emerge, but I had no plans of doing pruning anytime soon. But thank goodness the buds were visible to give me a small guide of a general area to cut. Here I'm just doing more regular hydrangea maintenance, cutting out dead branches, spindly branches, or anything skinnier than a pencil. However, I've got real questions about the pencil rule, and that will come up later in the video. This is just me cleaning up some lavender that we tossed in last minute last season for some color. I didn't really think it would do well in this space because of how much water it gets, but they actually thrived and took over the area. However, I'll be snatching these out this season at some point to replace them with some daisies. But in the meantime, they still deserve some love and care. Now, here we are at the infamous Limelight primes from last season. They gave me a ton of trouble all year. As you're going to see here in this clip, leaf spots took a hold of these and wouldn't let them go the entire season. They were new to our garden last year, and not even 2 days after I brought them home from World Emporium, they looked like this. I took some of the leaves to World Emporium to show them, and they offered me some fungicide. So I trimmed off all the infected areas and followed the recommended regimen, but it just kept coming back stronger and harder throughout the season. We'll see how they do this year. If I have the same issues, out they'll come and we'll replace them with a new set. Now we come back to this whole thicker than a pencil rule for pruning hydrangeas. As you can see, not much is thicker than a pencil on these. If I were to follow this guidance 100%, we'd be cutting these down to the ground. So instead, I just gave these some decent shape, cleaned them up, and moved on. Before we moved too far from these, I did have some interesting findings throughout all of them. There were several branches that seemed to have been either burrowed into by bugs or some sort of disease had gotten to them. Could this maybe have been the source of our problem? Maybe. Whoever the grower was didn't make sure to prune these down to the appropriate areas to avoid issues like this. Now, I'm extremely excited about these this year. This is my tiny quickfire hydrangea. This one probably won't grow much larger than it is in this space, but this baby puts out a ton of blooms for its size, as you can see. It's supposed to be one of the earliest bloomers, so we'll see what she gives us this year. As you can see, I'm really just deadheading it so that it grows more thick than tall. Now here we have our little quickfire. What's the difference between this and the tiny quickfire, you ask? About 2 feet and looser blooms. To wrap things up for the day, I put down some Hollytone fertilizer around all my plants, including the hostas that look non-existent here, but if you look close, they're starting to poke their heads through. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you in the next one.